The anti Israel tropes are happening all over the place. We've seen them burgeoning on campuses in the United States. We've seen them on the streets in all over Canada and protests. The pro Palestinian movement has now occupied university campuses in Canada. And what's being done about it? Well, very little. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me is Laurie Goldstein. Laurie, there is a long laundry list of examples now where we're seeing such a movement against anti-Israel chants, the tropes that people used back in the 30s. It's all coming back, and just a few examples: the city of Ottawa not refusing to raise the Israeli flag to commemorate Israel's independence. The protests that we're seeing on the campuses, the University of Toronto, for example, Little Gaza is what they're calling it. The university not doing anything to shut that down. And yet we're seeing the chants against Israel, anti-Zionism, and not allowing Jewish students on campus. The list goes on and on and on.
That doesn't surprise me. Jew hatred's the oldest hatred in the world. But the scary thing is that it's working. You cited a couple examples. At Ottawa City Council, they are actually going to allow the flag of Israel to be raised on the next week, commemorating the anniversary of the creation of the State of Israel. But they're not going to hold a ceremony because it might be divisive, even though they have a policy that they have these ceremonies for the vast majority of nations on earth in cooperation with Global Affairs Canada. But this time, no, because it might be divisive. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that pro-Israel demonstrators are going to storm mosques, firebomb schools? Pick an example. No, they're specifically concerned that people who are anti-Israel and disguise their Jew hatred by saying they're anti-Israel for how they might react. So, presuming that the people who organized this ceremony since, I think, 2007, it's nothing new. It involves Jews who are law-abiding and who simply, want Israel represented as 190 other nations are by the city of Ottawa every year. Well, now no, we can't do that because it might be. It's cowardice to me. It's moral cowardice. The mayor, Mayor Sutcliffe, I understand he's in a tough position, but he said he's very disappointed by the decision. We're the mayor of the city of Ottawa. Now, he says he consulted with the Ottawa Police Service and Jewish leaders and yada, yada, yada. And, and this is the compromise. Well, let me tell you something. Flying the flag of Israel alone will enrage these groups, because this isn't about what's going on in Israel and Gaza. This is about a political play in Canada. Right. So okay, University of Ottawa, one example. U of T, these students cannot occupy the campus because you're trespassing. Okay, they came, you didn't stop them. Now they're there. What are you going to do? Because saying that it's not right and you won't tolerate it, and then tolerating it just makes you look weak. But it's going, it's all over the place. You see these municipal and bureaucrats and politicians at every level of government just caving. Now, is this because they agree with the protesters? I don't know. I would point out that there are Jews who oppose what's going on in Gaza, right? Just as like there are Muslims who oppose Hamas. Talk to Iranian expats about. They've been some of the strongest supporters of Israel in this conflict anywhere. So, first of all, let's not paint people with broad brushes. I guarantee you the vast majority of sane people in Canada, however they feel about what's going on in the Hamas war, would not be enraged to the point of violence by seeing an Israeli flag or seeing a city hall doing a ceremony, probably indoors. Like if you're really worried, make it indoors. And it's insidious. And
I think part of the concern, well, there's so many concerns with respect to this. Like, I will say that getting a higher education doesn't necessarily make you a better speller, because at the University of Ottawa's encampment, they couldn't even spell Palestine correctly, and now that's
That's
embarrassing and humiliating. But I
not
mean,
gonna.
we have an independent MPP, Sarah Jama from Hamilton, speaking at the McMaster's encampment, and grabs the microphone and
one more thing, globalize the Intifada.
Globalize the Intifada. And you hear these things, and for the majority, they just think, "Oh my God, this is lunacy. This is crazy." But an MP, an elected official, who has shown no real regard for decorum in the legislature, the understanding of parliamentary procedure, anything like that. She's an activist, and she's elected as there to be an activist. She has constituents that that she would be representing that are Jewish, for example, or just opposed in general to what's going on. And yet she is emboldened by this. And that's what's happening on these campuses, Lori. They're emboldened by the inaction of the so-called adults.
Sure, because appeasing, Churchill had a famous line that an appeaser is somebody who feeds the crocodile in the hopes that they won't be eaten first.
Right.
And that's what's going on here. On the specific MPP, who's no longer, too radical for the NDP.
Yeah.
Good Lord. And who was thrown out of the party by a leader who now is defending her right and the rights of all members of the Ontario legislature to wear I believe it's called the keffiyeh, the scarf. And then the speaker makes the right decision. No, can't do that. That's a political statement. Oh, it's a political statement. But it's okay to do political statements. Oh, I see. Okay. Now, well, we've got that clear. Okay, so I would like a Jewish MPP to go in with a political statement, which would be a T-shirt that says "Free the hostages." Mm-hmm. I guess we should allow that too. Now, my would argue, no, you don't allow either. You don't allow either. Because
and that's what the rules say. Like the speaker sets these rules for a reason.
And the poor speaker gets by every political leader in Ontario. It wasn't just the NDP. It was the premier, which I found hard to believe. Like, that's not the Doug Ford I remember,
right?
Who would have shut this nonsense down in a moment. Now, he says the protesters at the schools should move on. Well, thanks, Premier. They should move on. I think everybody in officialdom says move on. You're in charge of you give money to police forces. You're in charge of, you're not in charge of the Toronto police, but I think the Premier of Ontario saying they should move on. Okay, well, what if they don't move on? Because saying they should move on is essentially useless. We know they're not going to move. I saw a thing where a Jewish professor was barred from, entering this place, like whatever they call it, Free Gaza or whatever. And people were arguing, well, why does he have to go that way? Like, was it the Babylon Bee that had a great line, and it wouldn't refer to this specifically, but these kind of incidents, Jews being barred from going to the university. And it said, barring people from university based on their race or religion, probably on the right side of history.
And that's part of it. Like, again, the vast majority of us, and they've done polling on this, where Canadians stand with respect to these encampments and these pro-Palestinian, and we're opposed to it. The majority of us are opposed to it. We kind of go along on our day, but this is affecting our neighbors, our communities, our friends. Like, this is having such a deep impact. And the fact that it's being allowed to just carry on, and we're getting into the nicer weather, the summer of discontent. I don't know if that's what the expectations is, but just back to the U of T one, for example, Lori, it started out with a few matching little pup tents. It's now blown up into over 200 tents in various cities across this country. If you set up there's homeless and tent encampments, and they come and they tear those down. Rightly so, or we can debate that point. But with this, it's like it's allowed. They're pitting in. It reminds me of the Occupy movement that happened back in the late 2000s. You know, they stayed in, and finally it got so bad is when everything got cleared out. But it was almost like, you know, taking the jaws of life to extricate these things. If I were one of these kids' parents going to U of T or McMaster or wherever the heck, I'd be like, get your ass out of a tent and get to class, because now they're going to be canceling graduations, they're canceling commencement ceremonies, they're canceling classes. This has become so grossly unfair. I don't see an end to this anytime soon, Laurie. Last word.
Look, I don't want to say the two are equal, because they're not. But when the Nazis took over in Germany, schools were the first to cave in.
Right.
They justified Nazi ideology. And we have, and look, and this movement is organized. This is not spontaneous stuff. I'll give them credit for one thing. They are incredibly organized. They are smart, and they are smarter than the politicians and administrators they're dealing with. And we all know what here, because politicians know that people like you and me and people whose parents were survivors of the Holocaust are not going to storm, municipal buildings or invade parliament. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that to say, you cowards, you moral cowards, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You're a disgrace. But we're not going to do that, because we believe in civility and standards and debate and the ability to debate people you disagree with without calling them names. But the other side doesn't. It doesn't. These are the tactics it uses. And it drives these moral cowards into these absurd, they turn themselves into pretzels. When, it was Holocaust Remembrance Day recently. Oh, politicians are great on that, because, when Jews are victims, it's okay. Then you can empathize with Jews, right? But when Jews are, killing Palestinians in Gaza, well, no, wait a minute. You're in Canada. I'm Jewish. I don't have any say about what goes on in Israel. I think Netanyahu is a terrible leader, and I think he has to go when this is over. It's horrible that tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians have been killed. But why did it start? Why did it start? How did you think a nation that was forged out of the Holocaust was going to react to the largest single mass killing of Jews since the Holocaust? What did you think was going to happen? So if we're going to talk about that, let's talk about that, but in the context of, hey, no Jew in Canada is responsible for what the Israeli military does, and no Muslim in Canada or Arab in Canada or Palestinian in Canada, whatever their views, is responsible for Hamas massacring 1,200 people, kidnapping others, as if this was the first bad thing Hamas ever done, right? So, okay, that's fine. But when all of this implicitly implies that Jews in Canada are responsible for the actions of the Israeli government and the Israeli military in Gaza, and that's the new anti-Semitism, and it's worked.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to thetorontosun.com. You're going to find commentary and coverage there you'll not find anywhere else.